So one of the things that Meredith and Dr. Jules Maitland from All In, that company or organization, we did a lot of upfront surveys and meetings with those in our nonprofit sector to ask them, what they collect, how often they collect data, how do they use the data, what are their struggles. And so we've come up with 3 different personas, made assumptions based on their staff, their budgets, and came up with 3 different ones. So here you're looking at Yusuf, Fiona, and Harissa. And to give you an example of the 3 different types of nonprofits that we could generalize and say they mostly fall between this yearly budget and this staff number. And so these are the personas that we made up with. Then once we created these, we went back to the nonprofits. They provided some feedback, we updated them. And you want to go to the next slide, Mayor? So then for each one of those segments, we created what's called a journey map. So this is one we did just for Fiona. So we looked at their journey through their data collection, how they use it, how they, what they collect, what gives them the most problems, how much time do they spend on it. So we kind of went through that journey with them, because typically they collect just enough data that they need for their next round of funding. And so this is one of the, this was really important for us. So where you see it, the line goes up, that's a little more pleasing, but down at the bottom, you see stuff like, this is so tedious. And then at the end, when they finally submit their report, it's, finally. So they spend a lot of time doing this kind of evaluation. And so we wanted to really find a way that we could help them access this information in one place, and that would be easy to get to. And one of the other side, you can go to next slide, Meredith, please. One of the other things we've been working on is actually, with our partners, creating data standards to ensure that our nonprofit community is actually collecting this using the same data parameters. So if if all the nonprofits were collecting data that chunked into the same age group, say 0 to 14, 15 to 25, even that, it would be a lot easier to be comparing apples to apples, and much less data scrubbing in advance. So we're really happy that this year our 2 major funders in the city, which is the United Way and the Fredericton Community Foundation, have kind of integrated their granting applications to include the data standards that will follow, census data, that type of thing, but also that their grants are somewhat the same, so we can look at how the community is doing and comparing apples to apples. So one of the other things we worked on was a data maturity framework. We found an organization out of the UK that has spent many, many years in doing research, specifically in the nonprofit sector, to help our nonprofits move through some, through the data maturity framework. And so we had our nonprofit sector fill out a bunch of questions that's provided by Data Orchard. That's the name of the organization. And they got a self-evaluation. So some of the nonprofits were, might have been really strong on uses, but not really strong on culture or tools or skills. So this could help us identify where we could jump in and help them. But it was also really interesting for them because they became kind of self-actualized. They're like, jeepers, we don't have a data culture at all. I need to get my board of directors interested. I need to, that kind of thing. So it really helped them just realize exactly where they are on the spectrum. And I think that we're going to be doing the survey in another year. And so to see how and if we've moved the needle at all. So I think that's it for my slides. I'm going to introduce lovely Meredith Langille, and she's going to take over and talk about and give you a.
So this is the landing page of the Community Prosperity Hub. And the Sustainable Development Goals act as a way to organize our community's data. We chose the Sustainable Development Goals because we can safely assume that they'll be influencing funding for at least the next 10 years. And our partnership with Civic Fredericton works in the way that volunteers will adopt no poverty or zero hunger and work with the nonprofits working in those goals as needed for data support and analysis. The Community Prosperity Hub is not yet published and it's still being developed. We ran some engagement sessions with our partner nonprofits over the last month and are working to ensure usability for those that'll be using it the most. Feedback right now and from the beginning of this project from the nonprofits is they want to identify the gaps in services. That's how they see the nonprofit data collaboration helping them. So identifying these gaps, seeing who else is working in these goals, and just what our community looks like. Data that's populating the hub right now is open source government data and any publicly available nonprofit demographic data. So that would be published reports, any summaries on their websites and stuff like that. So this is that landing page. You just enter in and then you can click through and go to the hubs behind this landing page. So I'll take you guys through this first one in No Poverty. And when we first land on this hub, we're going to get a definition of poverty so that we're all speaking the same language and know what we're talking about as we go through the data. So right now in Canada, poverty is defined by a family unit's disposable income. And this is enough for each economic family unit size to buy the specific goods and services that represent a basic standard of living. So that's shelter, clothing, transportation, food, and other necessities. And then those threshold levels in Fredericton range from roughly 19,000 all the way up to a bit over 40,000. And this is called the market basket measure. So then as we scroll down, we have some visualizations set up to start looking at what poverty looks like in Fredericton. And this map will just take a moment to load. These visualizations allow for storytelling and for users to quickly pull out the information that will be required for grant applications, for example. When working with one of our partnering nonprofit executive directors, she told us that this tool takes the stress off how they're going to answer very specific demographic data questions for applications. So as you can see here, this map is showing the average income categories for Fredericton. So we have the breakdown of color, and you can start to get a picture of, where our wealthier communities and what that spread looks like. And then this next map shows how much is spent on the specific goods and services that represent a basic standard of living. So this kind of ties back up to that initial definition. And we see that there are some neighborhoods that are spending over 50% on those basic services. And then when you click in, you get a bit more information about how much is spent on shelter, how much is spent on transportation, and so on. And the data that's being used to populate these visualizations is stored in the content library of the hub. And these data files can easily be accessed through the hub and exported for further use. So that can be found right up here, through there. So far, the feedback from our partners has been that they like the visualizations and the easy information to grab. But it can be accessed that way if they have something specific they're looking for that they want to go in and pull out directly. Another way to access that is through these cards here that categorize it, that are some of the data is tagged by age. So if you know that you're specifically looking for things by an age category, you can click there and it'll take us back to that content library with anything that includes an age breakdown. So these are our data files, and then you can click through and see. So I'll take you back to the main page here. So then as we get to the bottom of this page, we just have more visualizations of what this looks like in Fredericton. For example, this next one is immigration density. looking at those different demographics that might be affecting poverty in our area and what our neighborhoods look like. And then who is working to address poverty in Fredericton. These are two of our partnering nonprofits. And then there might have been some data that you were anticipating seeing on this page of no poverty, like homelessness data, food security data, but those can be found in sustainable cities and communities or zero hunger. And that's where then you'll be directed to other parts of the hub. And then if the data you're not looking for isn't prompted here or wasn't in this page, then you can go back to the main page and go to another goal. So for example, you'd click into sustainable cities and communities, and then you get the same format of the introduction of what makes a sustainable community, and then you'd go into that data. So I will go back to, and Sandi, I will hand it back to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Meredith. Anyway, great job of demoing that hub. I haven't seen it for a couple of weeks since our last presentation on it, so I see that progress is happening. It's fantastic. So that's the hub. That's our project. It's big. It's complex. There are a lot of moving parts. We're on a 3-year mission to get this going. It will be launched a lot earlier than that. And as Meredith said, a lot of those data sets are already available on the city's open data portal. It's just the way that we've called them up and framed them up in visualizing them that makes it easier for our non-experts to be able to do some analysis and really help them deliver their services and be more efficient. I guess we don't really have much else to talk about the hub, but we would love to answer any questions.
Thank you, Meredith, and thank you, Sandi. That was really interesting. Can I start with a question?
Sure.
So I noticed that I really like the way on the Prosperity Hub, the visualization of the information made it really easy to understand. One of the challenges that I found when I was taking part in the DataViz competition last year was some of the data sets in the open government data portals sometimes are kind of incomplete in some rows at least. How do you account for that?
I can take this question, Sandi. So we are working with Felix McCarthy and Rob Lund from the city of Fredericton, and they are our ArcGIS data gurus. The city portal has access to, that's like the census data and then Environics projection data. And they've been making all the maps for us and pulling that. So all I can say is that, they're creating those tables from what's available. And that's all I know on that.
Okay, thanks.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Ayush.
Yeah. In the data hub which you were presenting, it was based on the salary of people in Fredericton. So it was, the entire data set was based on people in Fredericton. So when we are presenting our data, should we specify any region or province, or can we consider the country as a whole and present the data on that?
Is this specific for the competition?
Yeah, for competition. Yeah, for competition. Like, should we collect data about a specific province or region, or can it be as Canada as a whole?
It could be Canada as a whole. I think whatever data set that you choose to showcase and work on, you should mention in a footnote on your slide that this is Fredericton data or New Brunswick data or Canada based data, so that it gives a kind of point of reference for the judges while you're presenting. But I guess the choice is yours.
All right, thank you.
I had a quick question for Meredith and Sandi. So as I understand the data that we just saw on the website, I believe that is something that you have drawn from the Open Data Challenge. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Open Data, not the Open Data Challenge, but the Open Data that the government already has available. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, and you did also mention that this was a 3-year project. Are you already live with the website, or are you still in the process of having that?
We're still in the process of developing it and working with the city to build it out, and then also engagement sessions with our partnering nonprofits, like I said, to make sure that it's usable for them. And then when it is launched, it'll be useful for them as it's showing the data that they will need and able to pull out effectively and so on.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, our hope is that we can have a prosperity hub for the whole province, right? That we could take snapshots, and a lot of our nonprofits in the Fredericton area, this is kind of their head office, but they're providing services across the whole province. So, this is, I don't like to say a pilot, but this is, with really close engagement with our nonprofit sector, to build out something that they can use. But our ultimate goal is to have something like this province-wide, and also to create a mechanism for nonprofits to get their data, their own more granular data, up into the New Brunswick Institute of Research, Data and Training. But it's a step-by-step process as we teach our nonprofits how important the data is and analysis. They know it's important. They know their funders are requesting it, but they're anxious about it because a lot of them are social workers, and look, I'm feeding kids. I don't have time. I can tell you how many I feed, but I don't necessarily know about the age groups or their family incomes or where geographically they're living, or it's there's a larger scope picture that they just don't have time to or the expertise, and but they know it's important. So yeah, anyway, that's what I was just wanted to put the point across, that our dream is that eventually our nonprofits are getting comfortable enough with how to use data, understand the value of it, and be willing to go forward with partnerships and data sharing agreements with IRDT, and we need to get things rolling, and help educating our charitable sector, and then moving them along the process with us.
So do you provide any assistance to these to organizations in how to collect their own data?
Yeah, so we've done some evaluations on different tools that are out there. We know already what they are using, but this is as far as the support goes, this is where the Civic Tech Fredericton volunteers come in. So those of you who are not familiar with Civic Tech, please visit civictechfredericton.com. So these professionals from our IT sector get together every Tuesday night, and they have adopted one of the hubs. So whether I see some of our team are already on this call, whether they're adopting the no poverty or whatever, and the nonprofits come in and they will help them. They will either do the visualization and analysis for them or talk them through that. But this is exactly what Civic Tech does. They provide tools and services for at no charge to our community. And if you're anywhere else in the world, you should check it out, because Civic Tech is an international movement. There are many Civic Techs across the country. We are the first in Atlantic Canada, but Civic Tech St. John is going, and we're very interested in growing Civic Tech in Moncton, Bathurst, Halifax, Charlotte, like growing the Civic Tech movement. So then Civic Tech community will be providing hand-holding as needed to our nonprofit sector.
Another question, if you guys don't mind. So now that you help all these organizations collect data, and as I understand from your previous answer, that you also help them with other factors as well. Is so since it has not been developed completely, but in the future, do you think, or is it one of your plans that the data that is available for all the non-profit organizations would be available for them even to get access to any funding or any of that sort? So, for example, using the data that's available on the hub, using that information to present to potential people to get funding for all these functions? Is that one of the objectives?
Oh, yes, it's one of the main objectives because we know the funders are asking more and more. It's not
Right.
just about the numbers, it's who are they? Who are the people you're serving? And how are you moving that needle? And what does it look like in relationship to other nonprofits in doing the same type of work? And what is it in relationship? What does the data look like in relationship to your community? If we have a concern with a certain geographic area and I have a very limited pot of money, I can either spend that money and cast a wide net and get very few, very little impact, or I can target my resources to a specific area where I would have more impact, you know? So that's helping them make all kinds of decisions. But yes, funding is the biggest thing because now more and more funders are understanding that data is open. But in saying that, it's really important that funding bodies add a percentage of their funding to the nonprofits to be for data collection and analysis and whatever, to give them the money to do it. So either 5-10% of your funding that we give you needs to go towards data analysis, data collection, program measurement, that kind of thing, and impact. So the world is changing, for our nonprofit sector quite a bit. And, they're really protective of their information, and so it takes a while to get them comfortable and understanding exactly the value.
I guess I have a follow-up question for that. So you mentioned the granular data that would be specific for based on the data provided by nonprofits. Would that data be available to the public to see as an aggregated level?
Right, as aggregated, and that's where the New Brunswick Institute of Research, Data and Training can come in. They have very strict privacy guidelines around aggregating data, but they could definitely aggregate up to community level, maybe even to like a ward level.
Yeah.
By council wards, or if it's provincial, then they can aggregate up based on their requirements in order to do so. So yes, that's our hope. Because it's impossible for me to comprehend that our government is going to make decisions based on make policy decisions based on information that doesn't include what is going on the ground, right? With the hundreds of nonprofits delivering services and taking care of people and doing their thing every day. How do we bridge that connection? So there's two parts. There's always the storytelling and the personal part of what is happening, but there's also here's the science to back it up. And it's a huge gap in our province, and this project we hope will be filling that gap.
Thank you for sharing that. I think your last few sentences really summed up the crux of the data challenge of like the storytelling and the numbers to back it up.
That's right.
And that's kind of what we're also trying to promote through the competition.
Yeah, and it's great that this was, initially, the hub was initially conceived and shared at the data visualization competition. So we have a very soft spot for the IBEC team. So we're really glad to be part of today's session. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. We have a question. You can go ahead and ask a question. I think Jumuka.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. I'm seeing that the session is being recorded. So after this, can we have this link to the recording?
Yes.
Okay.
So I will mention that I clicked record about 7 minutes late into the presentation. I completely forgot. But minus the 7 minutes, we have the entire session recorded and it will be posted on YouTube, and I'll share a link with everyone.
Yes, and if you're interested, we do have a shorter canned version of Meredith and I, me doing those slides quickly and her demoing the hub. So it doesn't include all the questions and answers and what have you. So if anybody's interested just in that link, they can contact me through socialinnovationfredericton.com. And just through there, or civictechfredericton.com, just through there, it'll come to me. Just say, can you send me that link on the hub? And I can share that with you. That's good. I guess we did a great job, Meredith. We've thoroughly explained what what we're working on.
It was awesome. I mean, thanks so much, and it's really interesting, and we're really looking forward to seeing this this website and portal kind of take off. I think it's so required, and it'll help so many people.
Yeah, definitely. And good luck to everybody in the competition.